A very warm welcome to all participants who have taken the time out to attend this workshop. Shopping Center Association of India was created in 2008 with a vision to encourage the development of the shopping center industry in India by equipping it with the knowledge base and operational skills, and to help the industry assume its rightful place in society and in the economy. We are conducting monthly webinars on topics important to the industry and have also started conducting workshops on the subjects that will help the industry members in enhancing their knowledge and day-to-day operational skills. I'm happy to let you know that response to these webinars and workshops has been very positive. This year we had conducted 3 workshops. First workshop was on leasing and zoning in shopping malls. It was conducted by Rajneesh Mahajan. The second workshop was conducted by Yogeshwar Sharma, and the subject was marketing in shopping malls. The third workshop subject was the psychology of shopping and its impact on shopping malls. Mr. V. Mohammed, CEO, Retail Prestige Group, he conducted this workshop. The subject of today's workshop is how to increase ancillary income in shopping malls. Mr. Najib Kunil, he is a CEO, Pioneer Property Zone Services. He is conducting this workshop. Najib is a well-known name in the industry, a graduate of Mumbai University with a business program from University of Michigan and Indian Institute of Ahmedabad. He has over 25 years of experience in the real estate sector with 20 years of specialization in mixed-use retail-centric assets. He has in-depth domain knowledge of hyper-local and regional markets, coupled with extensive relationships with leading developers, landowners, national retailers, and financial institutions. Over the last decade, he has developed and managed large retail-centric mixed-use assets, building a strong track record in creating incremental value for the asset owners. Najib is also the chairman of South Committee of SCAI. So let's welcome Najib. Najib, SCAI welcomes you, and over to you. Please start the session.
Good afternoon, everybody. And Anjeev, thank you very much for this opportunity to share my experiences with the entire industry. And thank you all participants to participate here. I hope you all take a good learning back from this session. I'm going to start with a small brief on me and PPZ and why this topic altogether before I start my presentation. We've been doing this since some time, but we are a third-party services business. We are not a mall developer. And in our case, most of the single mall developers across the country have been our clients. Our challenges have been that we have managed small centers relative to the big giants of the big branded names that you are aware of in the industry. And for us to keep adding extra revenues was becoming more important for survival rather than just trying to earn the rentals that are there. Ancillary income for us started about 15 years ago, where we realized that milking the real estate asset actually has more value than trying to build more, because there is that much you can milk on each asset effectively. Today, I'm going to take this opportunity to explain all of y'all different aspects of ancillary income. And that's where we will start off from. I've read this statement and that became very relevant to what we were doing, that for every success, if there is no preparation, we cannot join much opportunities to meet the end result. And that's why success is where preparation and opportunities meet. And that's what we've seen in our own learnings and our own experiences. A little bit on PPZ. We are a 17-year-old company. We are 160 plus people. Actually, we are now nearly close to 200 people. We have developed and conceived 90 plus projects in India. We manage about 30 plus million people that come as footfalls to our shopping centers, operational ones. So we understand how to manage volume. 900 plus stores. I think they're closer to 1,000 now. And we do an average trading density of nearly 1,500 rupees a square foot. If people who understand the trading density factor or sales per square foot commonly used, we are trading at 1,500, and a big chunk of this as an average in our portfolio across center. And a big chunk of this is contributed through the ancillary incomes that we earn in all our assets. And we manage a good number of vehicles as well, between a good 7 to 1 million vehicles that have come into our centers. Now, because of the volume that you see on the page today, we have learned how to milk this volume within our assets. And that's the strength of ancillary income in a shopping center business. Just a quick one on us again. We're spread out across the country. We're operating in more than 15 cities. We've got a very good understanding of how small two-tier city work, how metros work, and along with that, how geographies like North India work and South India work, because believe me, they both work differently, and the stuff that we create for each of these regions are different in its own sense. And retail, as you all know, is a very catchment and hyper local driven. But I say that in the same city also, there are two different directions that can be taken just because of the demographics that sit around you. We have 16 operational malls as we speak, 7 that are getting operational in the next quarter. That will be there. A portfolio that we will take it to 23 operational assets. And there are another 13 developments that are happening at different stages, with over the years will get operational as well. We will be having the largest portfolio of assets that we are managing as a mall management company in the country amongst all the players that are there. 10 to 25%. What is this? This 10 to 25% in our experiences have been resulted in excess amount that we earn out of ancillary income over and above the rentals. Now, that's not a small number. 10 to 25% can make your NOI stronger, can make your profitability come cleaner, can create better cash flows that are there. And we have learned the business of how to generate those 10 to 25% income generating aspects across the centers from different avenues through ancillary income. So now the big question, what is this ancillary income and how do you identify it? Our role has been spread because we are a service providing company. Yes, our learnings have come through retail assets predominantly, but these are all the different asset classes that we have learned how to create ancillary incomes. And you'll be surprised to see many of them have gone beyond the retail forum, because we believe that if there is volume and if there are people and if the congregation, we have learned how to make monies out of them by creating different opportunities to earn ancillary incomes. And as you can see on the screen, from retail cinemas to office parks, to tech parks, to amusement parks, to cinemas itself, to hypermarkets independently as anchors in a lot of sports stadiums, event venues, residential townships as well. Hotel also, a niche kind of ancillary income can be generated. And the future of what we believe is going to happen is the privatization of more TODs, that is transit-oriented developments across the country between airports, metros, bus terminuses, and railway stations. Because the minute it gets privatized, there is a clean objective of earning this additional monies, which help your IRRs and your NOIs and your value of the asset grow further than that. And that's where we come in. So these are all the asset classes that PPZ works in and has got experiences of how to generate revenues across all of these portfolios. What categories fall under them and what are these ancillary incomes, as I was asking earlier? We have identified 7 or 8 different types. Earned revenue share. I don't know how many of you all are well versed with it, but effectively all the revenues that you earn over and above your rent as your MG through the revenue shares that you sign with your respective retailers is what we call as earned revenue share. And I'll take you all through it more in detail. Parking lots, a lot of revenues generated over and above the actual tickets sold. That how do you generate extra revenues on the parking lots, which is a big volume generator of vehicles that come to you. So how do you generate it? ATL and BTL, anything above the line, anything below the line, whether it is advertising hoardings, whether it's digital hoardings, whether it is displays, whether it is 2-day displays, launch of products, all of those categories fall within the ATL, BTL categories. Temporary kiosks. So we know a lot of people do not like a clutter, and a lot of assets do not like a clutter of kiosks that get situated. A lot of them do, and they do both play a very important role in generating more revenues. But we found a very good niche between the fixed kiosks that are staying for about 11 months and the ATL, BTL that come for the weekends, that we found in temporary kiosks that come for a 1 month, 2 month, 3 month aspect of it, because those kiosks generate actual businesses by the visibility that they create for themselves inside the assets. Back of the house retailers. So we have a lot of the retailers who cannot afford space in the main mall, but they're still necessary to create a good amount of mix. So we create a lot of dead, we create a lot of dead corners into viable spaces to accommodate these kind of back of the house retailers. Terraces have been converted, and many have seen into different usages. I'll take you all through some of the usages we believe and we have converted in our own shopping centers that are there. And this must be new to a lot of people, which is volume touch point sponsorships. And I'll take you all more through it. But these are the 7 big ancillary income opportunities and avenues that we have categorized within our organization to see how do we generate more revenues than the rental fixed amounts that come. Where do we ideate? And how do you ideate? And what are the different aspects of it? And now I'll take you all through each one of the services and the avenues that we spoke about a little bit earlier. Earned revenue share. As I was mentioning, that the older route of how we earned our earned revenue shares was we created a marketing deck, we created a marketing plan, we executed the marketing plan. That generated into some consumption that is there. It's a little bit of a blind spot on how much consumption a marketing activity throughout a year can generate. But yes, it does add to the consumption value of the entire mall, which is the retailer's consumption growing, which translates into an increased revenue share potential. That means if your MGs are at an X amount and you have generated enough business for the retailers and they have earned enough to pay you the revenue share over and above your MGs, which is structured in the form of MG or a revenue share, whichever is higher, you get a potential of earning revenue shares, but it is never consistent, it is never sustainable, and it is never predictable to a great extent. And that gives you an ERS, but it is, as I said, non-consistent. Now, when it is becoming non-consistent, what happens to the value of the asset through a ERS form, which is non-consistent and not predictable, that they don't get valued because you are not able to show the predictability, or you're not able to show the chain of how you're deriving that every month on month, which becomes an assertive rental revenue for you. And from that learning, when we started dealing with a lot of assets that were not able to be sold well, and where even though we generated enough ERSs, were not being valued to be given as a value to the asset owners, we derived of a newer method to try and become a little bit more focused. And that's the method that I want to present to you all, what we have been successfully driving it in our shopping centers in the last 2 years, especially after COVID. And I would like to share that with all of you all in your respective centers that can be practiced as well. Community development. This became actually the center focus of what we started doing things. Community development became a conversation that with the end customer, which was not transactional oriented, but it was more their interest group oriented. And because we were building communities out of either a pet show, whether it is out of cycling enthusiasts, a marathon enthusiast, or a car enthusiast, and so on and so forth, and this laundry list can keep going on, what we realized is that we started capturing data, and we are capturing data digitally than just physically, of interest group customers that we were able to generate. And across the portfolio of assets that we manage in the country, we were able to create a good amount of critical mass in each interest group that became a good set of people to sell and sell products to. And that's when we got into targeted marketing. So there's a big difference between the marketing that you did in the old route relative to the new targeted marketing that we are doing through the new route, because you have a defined customer base and an interest group that is attached to it. And hence we were able to create targeted marketing for people who are inside the store, as in the retailers who are inside the mall, which is if there is a certain set of people who like a certain set, and those behavior patterns were created and analyzed within our systems to try and see that what can I sell, which products can I sell from within my asset to the retailers, and what else can I sell from the outside the asset to the customers, so that I'm able to generate additional revenues from both sides of it. And that targeted marketing gave us increased revenue shares for very specific categories, which I was able to make it into a predictable earned revenue share through the year, with targeting a specific set of either category of clothing or a category of people, and merging the two or together to try and get us the more predictable ERS, which we have seen positively is being valued in the long run of the asset, because this earned revenue share truly became an ancillary income. I hope you all understand it, and I'm happy to answer these questions towards the end when we are doing our Q&A sessions that are there, because these are important ones and I'd like to share as much as possible. The other one is the parking lot. We are all aware of the potential of what parking lots can earn us through the tickets that we sell. We are also aware of the volume of people that come to our parking lots, which is a very important infrastructure of any asset. Now comes down to how do you actually milk the asset. And many of these things must have been seen by all, practiced by a lot of y'all, and maybe not practiced. I would like to add a few new things that we have seen in our shopping center, which I hope will help you all take it forward as well. Advertising in the parking slips, whether it's our internal retailer or whether it's an external brand, whoever want to sell a product to our car parking users, we are able to sell that. At PPZ, of course, we are lucky that we manage a large portfolio, so I am able to do a portfolio deal with most of my the brand users and who want to target my customer base. But in every single asset, the same thing can be also practiced. Storage spaces that we are able to create in dead areas of the basement and MLCPs. Again, it is used predominantly by our own retailers who especially F&B and footwear, who like to store a lot of the stock that is there within their space. But we have also taken the step forward to extend this to the external set of people who would like to utilize the storage spaces. And I'll speak a little bit more as we go on the conversation. The car park space, and this is a double-edged sword because there's an argument on whether you have enough infrastructure or you don't. But what we have seen in our experiences is that predominantly during the week, there is very less periods where our car parks are completely utilized. And we want to try and maximize the underutilized spaces that are there with the likes of Uber and Ola and Zoom Car, who have massive car bases and they require vehicle parking areas during the sleeping hours of the mall, and they also require parking areas instead of parking it somewhere on the road. We allow them a very good secured parking facility within the space. We've also seen a very good success amongst the second-hand car vehicle companies, and truly that adds value from a customer base that comes to us, which is of good quality. We get a good revenue share attached to the businesses that are being generated within the second-hand car business. And third, we are able to add ancillary incomes because of the kind of dead parking spaces and kiosks that they take within our assets. But it maximizes our underutilized parking base to generate revenues. A lot of the vehicle traffic products that are sold to our volume of people. And I'm using things like insurance companies, which are all vehicle insurance companies, are able to sell. We don't give exclusivity to anybody in our entire space. So we have multiple insurances that are sold in different parts of the car parking lot so that the customer doesn't feel the clutter of it. But we are maximizing the space by giving the same volume to multiple people of the same product as well. And same applies to things like Castrol oil, or whether it comes to Gulf oil, because they want to reach the customer base as well. MRF or any other tire company, and digital companies who are catering to the car industry, whether it's Go Mechanic, whether it's Go Bumper, and so on and so forth, many such operators, they are all wanting to touch a dedicated team of a customer base of vehicle users whom we are able to provide within our car parks. EV charging, I'm sure a lot of you all have already been experienced with that. It's a new NBC policy that has come into play as well. So EV charging has become compulsory, but with the number of players who are stepping into the charging space, as well as the number of players who are coming into the vehicle space in the EV segment, there is a big demand that has been created, and we are able to capitalize on this quite well. Maybe not so much so in the short run, but I believe in the long run, it'll only add value, and we have been able to utilize our spaces to create this offering as well. The other usages and the point I mentioned from the previous space here on the storages, we have actually seen a big jump of hyperlocal requirements by all of these online delivery, last mile delivery players. And their biggest need, because of their fight of time on delivery to their customers, in the hyperlocal areas, they need places which are within a 2 kilometer and 3 kilometer radius, so that they're able to deliver within a 10-minute and a 15-minute and a 20-minute time frame. And because of that, we have started creating dead storage spaces in our car parking lots, which become distribution centers for these kind of players who are utilizing our underutilized areas to service their customers who are outside our mall. But as an ancillary income, it helps us generate that extra revenues from such kind of players, especially the demand has increased over the last 1 year more than anything else. ATL and BTL, as commonly used, this would have been the most utilized ancillary income all of y'all must have practiced as well as experienced. And these are from advertising spaces within on the facade of the building, to advertising spaces which is within the building, to digital signages, which is growing quite extensively right now in the market, to pillar posts that are there in the car parking lots, which have also been utilized quite a bit. to construction sites. I've actually not seen this happen quite a lot, where we have advocated a lot of our developments which are underway to be utilized because they are very visible. They are in very good locations. Typically, malls are in very good locations. They have stand into a construction phase for over 2, 3, 4, 5 years in many of the cases. And those time frames are actually, we are not generating any revenues whatsoever. It's a only cost burn. What we have suggested and what we have seen also as a result that in our some of the developments that we have done is the hoardings that are or the board outs that are there outside every development building, which is a compulsory requirement from a safety and hygiene point of view. We are converted a lot of them into advertising spaces because they have got phenomenal visibilities on main roads of a lot of assets. And we believe that that's a very good ancillary income generated for the asset, which is only burning cash during the construction period, so that basic operational costs, basic upkeep of the construction sites, and all of those things get paid off from these ancillary incomes that are there. And we have seen a good benefit and people appreciating this quite a lot during the construction phase as well. The BTL are the one-off shows, the monies that we see from our car shows, from launch products, from different flea markets, which is very commonly used. But I will show you all now moving forward, what are the other uncommon aspects of how we have started milking some of the volumes that we generate through all of the things that we do in our shopping centers. Temporary kiosk, I touched upon it briefly, and a lot of you all may have witnessed it internally at your end because they do take it for shorter periods of 1 month and 3 months and so on. They pay you the premium aspect of it relative to a long-term lease of a kiosk that is there. But more importantly, it does not necessarily clutter the place for a longer period, and you're able to rotate this in frequencies. Now, whether it's credit card companies or banking companies, or whether CSR units that are there, many CSR operators from WWF and CRI and so on and so forth are willing to participate because they get good sets of customers coming into their hands without any acquisition cost at all, besides the cost that they incur into getting the stall in place. And seasonal based kiosks, we have seen this as a very good trend as well. And based on this trend, we have actually made a package around it to try and target very specific sets of people. So April and May being summer vacation, June and July and going up to higher education, going into August and September are high frequency periods for new admissions to take place. So April and May, which is a summer vacation, actually becomes a classic case for any educational season player that is there. Same time becomes a holiday period, a lot of travel aspects of it. So during the late periods of March and early periods of April, you will see a lot of participants between things like Mahindra holidays or Thomas Cook holidays, or a lot of luggage aspects of it, but everybody catering around the tourism and travel based component. A lot of the things that we see towards the Christmas, because Christmas sees a lot of items that get generated only for Christmas. Similarly to Diwali, a lot of things get generated only for Diwali, and they start taking up those spaces. Today, because of our experiences and the trends that we have seen over the years, we are not only able to start predicting who these players could be, but predicting and projecting our numbers more accurately to the revenues that we are able to generate, and plan our kiosk distribution to these kind of players who are ready to pay a higher premium relative to the regular guys who don't mind coming any time of the year. And this is important while you all break up the entire season through the year from April to the following March, is how do you break up the usages of your kiosk space that you have to different kind of categories who are able to pay you a premium during that period because they need it the most. And that becomes a differentiator by just leasing a regular kiosk relative to leasing a season-based or a category-based kiosk who need it the most. Terraces, we have seen a lot of formats come up on the terraces. Sports has been the biggest set of format that has worked well in terraces, from football pitches to trampoline parks to cricket pitches and so on, or a mix of everything, and generated a good amount of footfall for the center by the offering that you have created, but also along with that, a good amount of ancillary income that gets generated. Cloud kitchens typically, like the other storage offerings that we put into the kitchen, is not allowed in the habitable spaces. But we have seen a very good response as far as success in the terraces being used by the cloud kitchens, which is a pure delivery space aspect of it alone. They're temporary in nature, so they do not fall under the FSI bracketing. They are covered with all safety and fire norms that are there, which allow them to get the trade licenses to operate as a kitchen. And we do not have any customer servicing aspect of it. So we are not using it as a habitable trading space, but rather a back of the house trading space, which they are able to cater to their online players, but good utilization of our terraces. And of course, alternative energy usages have been also a very big focus of the government and policy driven components. We are able to buy a lot of these alternative energy from the grid, but our terraces and a lot of the terraces which are designed well and with a big floor plate can make a very good use to having solar panels invested by the companies and sold back to the grid, where you get a percentage of that in your usage and in the revenues, which becomes a double benefit part for any asset. BOH retailers, we spoke a little bit on it. They are important. They are difficult retailers to pay rents on our regular centers, but they're important from a customer point of view. It's important to create that mix so that people are coming here for various reasons other than shopping. And they are people like tailors, they're people like cobblers, they're people like laundry marts, the courier guys, the key makers, car accessory offerings, medical centers like pharmacies, small pharmacy aspects of it that are there. Aadhaar card offices, we have Aadhaar card in one of our centers that we manage in Delhi, which is a metro station. And also baby services, where we tie up with a lot of the different hospitals or maternity homes who manage this for us on our behalf, as long as we are giving them branding and some kind of a rental arrangement between them. Sponsorships, and this is very much to do with the volume-based touch points that I was referring to. Now, what is this volume-based touch points? And this is something that some of you all may have seen and some of you may not have seen. And this is a new learning that we have arrived at ourselves. In our center, we do close to 200 plus events in a year. And in that entire period, we program our events in a manner which generates different types of traffic for different types of time frames in the year, for different types of people that we want to bring to the asset. And this includes from the summer vacations to the EOSS, to the Diwali and the Christmases of the world, to the regular holidays of Independence and Children's Day, and all the aspects of it that we generate between it. What we have identified and realized is that all of these touch points bring a very specific set of people. Now, whether it's a Diwali Dhamaka or a Christmas Bonanza, whether it's a EOSS impact, whether it's a Children's Day impact or a Women's Day impact and categories such, or even to the extent of products that are available to be sold to all the labor that work within our organization. And we have seen successes in all of these things that I've mentioned, not only these four, but multiple categories within these four. And I'll give you a close example of it. When we are doing our Diwali event, and we, again, PPZ has the luxury of working with players who are wanting to take a visibility across the portfolio that we manage, but nothing stops your individual owners and individual managers also of centers to sell your most prime time volume of people to brands who are very keen to participate in that entire bit. How we have seen is that NOI, which is your net operating income, which is an important component of it, is generated out of incomes that you earn for the asset, or incomes that, or costs that you save the asset. And these are some of the categories that we have seen where we earn the income as well as save the cost. Now, on a Diwali Dhamaka, you would typically spend a lot of money because that's your prime time area in the year. So the maximum spend of a marketing cost goes during this period. But if you're able to sell the same volume to any brand that would like to use this set of crowd that you are able to extend for a 1 month period, who wants to capitalize on the Diwali crowd that comes in, who takes care of your entire cost or partial cost of the Diwali Dhamaka that you are doing, since that is the most expensive cost that you would be incurring across the center in the year. We try and do this for every event of ours. We try and do this for events that we are able to try and manage the cost through various partners who want to capitalize on that. EOSS, we know that end of season sale is another very high volume period. And there are multiple people who are wanting to sell fashion oriented products during that period itself. And we have found a lot of D2C players that are there who are very keen to participate in these kind of aspects so that they have got visibility on the D2C aspect online and D2C aspect offline. And they very well like to participate in the cost that we incur during this period. And in some malls, because if you're already successful, you all can charge a premium to earn more revenues against a branding name that you're giving to each of these players who want to participate in that space. Children's Day, though it's a very small event, or a Women's Day, it's a small event, but they're very category-based events. Or a pet show that is there. They're very small, but they're very category-based. And because they're very category-based, there is a very simple set of brands that want to sell products or want to expose themselves to those specific categories itself. a Children's Day being sponsored or co-branded or completely paid for by a FMCG toothpaste company who has launched a new product for kids, or a FMCG company that has brought out another few more food products for children, or a clothing brand that has brought out products for children, or insurance companies that have brought out products for children. Now, all of these things become category-based usages that we are able to sell to very specific sets of categories who are interested in the category that we are selling. And same applies to Women's Day. There are enough brands in the country that are very women-centric, and so on and so forth. The list can keep going on. If you are able to identify what part of your plan, annual marketing plan, can be sold to what set of categories of people, depending on what kind of TG that you're bringing to the asset by that event. And if that combination is defined correctly, you are surely able to find a partner to sponsor or to co-brand or to pay you premium to be present visibly in that space to attract the customer physically rather than doing it only digitally. The last one was an interesting one. When we started doing an analysis of the people that work in our shopping centers, and between all the 15, 16 shopping centers that are operational, we identified that we had more than 10 to 12,000 people working there, along with our own staff, including all the outsourced agency staff, and most importantly, the retailer staff. And we realized that all of the staffs that are there working together are coming from a typical TG audience. And we dive deep into it to realize that there are enough brands in the country, in fact, more brands in the country that target that segment of people than the brands that target the urban segment of people, because the larger volume of India is sitting in that segment, as we have identified. And that's when we said that why don't we take this product to likes of any agarbatti company, any FMCG product that is very specific to this, any cycle company that may be interested, as I said, FMCG from oil to soap to whatever household products that are there. If they have a product that can be sold to this entire TG of people that are in our shopping center, then we are able to create ancillary income in the back of the house areas where people enter and exit on an everyday basis from single entry points and single exit points. We have given stalls to people to try and maximize that entire revenue or maximize the opportunity, what these brands can get visibility with these sets of TG audience labor who work in our shopping center, and how do we create a premium income, ancillary income out of it, was our big learning, and we have only seen good results out of it. The reason why we have put this as a volume basis, because this volume base does not stop there either. And I'm sure all of y'all are creative and smart enough in the industry to identify on the floor when you are operating in an operating center that what generates volume and where is volume generated. Now, whether volume can be generated around escalators, volume can be generated around toilets, volume can be generated around lifts, volume can be generated around car parks, and many other touch points that you will see within your shopping centers. And they are very specific, so you'll have to dive deep into identifying them very specifically, because you are able to sell that to some product user who may be interested in that target audience that we are selling in that particular area where volume is being generated. And this has been a new learning for us and a new income generated for us, but it has been something that we want to expand a lot more because of the volume that PPZ manages across all its shopping centers. These were the different types of avenues and categories that we see. I'm going to dive in as to why are we doing all of this? What is this ancillary income actually providing? And really, what is it that, why are we doing this? It is an important factor that everybody needs to identify and understand, that the value of any asset, whether it is valued by a banker, whether it's valued by an investor, an individual investor, or whether it's valued by an institutional investor, it is being valued purely from the revenues it generates in the asset. Not how good the asset location is, not how expensive the building has been built, not how good the retailer mix in the building is, or how big the developer or the owner of the asset is. It gets defined by one figure only, which is the NOI. And NOI is the net operating income. The entire income that you generate for the asset relative to the entire cost that you spend on the asset gives you the net income of the net operating income, where the multiples and the cap rates are defined, giving you the best result of the asset. Now, what we have learned over the years as well on that NOI comprises of many aspects of it. As I said, rental being your biggest chunk, but rental is fixed. rental grows at a fixed pace every year, whether it is a revenue, whether it's a 3-year increased growth, yearly increased growth, or 5-year increased growth, depending on what kind of deal structure that you have signed. But it's a defined fixed rental structure. It does not have a growth potential year on year, in our experiences at least. What ancillary income does, it allows that gap in the middle to create growths that happen on your revenues year on year. And in our experience, we have taken ancillary income from 7-8% going up to 25-27% in our shopping centers live, where I have seen these results myself. And that's why we are very confident of bracketing a 10 to 15% revenues that get generated by ancillary incomes over and above the rent. But more importantly, it grows at a much faster pace than what a rent will grow, which also is at 10 to 15% year on year. We are able to grow these incomes because they're very dynamic in nature. And my graph on the right explains a very simple fact, that the blue line that you see is a fixed rental income. Every asset that focuses around getting a fixed income, like offices and some retail malls who do not believe in revenue shares, who do not put the effort to generate these additional revenues that I have just explained on the top, we have realized that they definitely have a disadvantage in the way they can create value for the asset relative to the ones who milk their asset in the right manner and from all opportunities given. And what you see in the red worm is the income generated from rent and revenue shares put together. And as you can see here, that these growths are stagnant for 3 years and it grows to 15%, which is the typical norm. Again, the same, stagnant for 3 years, grows 15%, stagnant for 3 years and grows 15%. Over a 10-year period, your number from 100 has gone to 150 rupees, which is the incremental growth that you got from your fixed rental. But just because of the effort that we have to put in to drive ancillary incomes through all the avenues that I mentioned on top, we are able to add a 10 to 15% of income every year, but not only get you the income every year, but also grow that income by another 10 to 15% year on year. And that jump, which happens on a more faster pace and a more quicker growth trajectory, allows you to grow the same rental that you got at 100 rupees in the beginning of the year, closer to 175, which is a good 25 to 30% more than what you're able to generate at your fixed rental phase. And this red line growth that you're able to show as a predictable, consistent, year-on-year trajectory growth and track record that explains the same, it only creates better value for your assets while being evaluated by the next round of either investors or bankers or financiers that are there. Now, we have seen a lot of the big assets that are going into REIT, the real estate investment trust, that is being built for very specific asset classes like ourselves. We've not had the opportunity to list in our country a good operating rent yielding asset. And what the REIT is allowing us to do is allowing the development community to present its portfolio of assets which are rent yielding to the public market to be listed, so that the retail investor in the share market can actually participate in a development like a Select City Walk, which is a very successful shopping center, or a Phoenix Market City Lower Parel, which we all have only seen being successful, but never have the opportunity to be participating in the financial upside of those assets. What REIT is allowed is that once these assets at some point become REITable and they do come out in the market to list itself, every retail investor in the market will have the opportunity to invest into it. Now comes the part where how does ancillary income play an important role in this REIT structure? And this comes down to the same graph that I am referring to. The REIT structure will evaluate the probabilities of how the asset is performing year on year. And it will see all the ups and downs that keep seeing in the asset classes year on year. Now, this is not only applicable to asset class like a retail, but is also applicable to office parks or tech parks or any other REITable asset class that is there. Because in REIT, the only thing that gets valued at a much higher pace is the growth of income that happens on a year-on-year basis, and the percentage of growth that happens over and above the fixed rentals that you're able to grow year-on-year basis. Once you are focused around growing these two components in your structure, it only adds a powerful tool to becoming more valuable during the REIT aspects of it, because you are showing the public that you're generating more revenues at a much faster pace year on year, and growing that at a much faster pace year on year relative to the plain rental, vanilla rental that comes out of the stores rentals that are there. And that's where, according to us, being a service providing company, and as I said, for the asset classes that we work, which is the single mall owners, this becomes an extremely important part of what we are offering. This is from my end. I'll just take you through a little bit of who we are, and the fact that we run different companies. One of our companies that called Spaces only focuses on ancillary income, and our entire team is only focused on how do we generate more incomes for every asset, any asset, wherever there is volume being generated in any form, in any category, to ensure that the asset is able to get better value for itself relative to the simple value that it gets from the rental incomes. This is from my side. I hope I was not very fast. I hope I was able to give some clarity, but we believe that this is an important role, and all of you all asset owners and asset managers should put a big focus in driving this entire bit. Anjeev, I hand it over back to you.
Yeah, I request all my viewers, they can pose their questions, and Najib shall be answering your questions.
Any questions that you all have?
Very enlightening session. It was a very interesting, and so I'm expecting questions. So my viewers, you are requested to please post your questions. If something is coming to your mind, if you want some clarity on any aspect relating to the mall management, you can please post your questions, and Najib shall be answering.
I would request all the listeners to understand all the points. I'm happy to answer any point of whatever I mentioned, how we generate it, what kind of retailers we get to get it, what are the kind of numbers that we get, how does it change geography wise. I'm happy to answer any question that may be there in your heads, respect.
Najib, why don't you summarize once again the inputs and the thoughts which you have shared? Just point wise, can you summarize it? That will be help our viewers in understanding the things to make it more clear. There is possibility there might be certain points which may not be clear to them as regards the sponsorship is concerned. They are well aware of it. We are talking about the additional spaces which can be used. So just maybe 2-3 minutes you can summarize it. Although
I will focus on this sheet which I took people through in detail. The different types of categories where we generate the ancillary incomes from, and how we generate it. But as I said, a lot of people have seen things like ERS and heard things of ERS. We have been working around ERS, that is the earned revenue share, in a sporadic manner. It is always in the blind. We do not know which brand is going to generate what kind of revenue shares in the following months. Even if we do know which kind of brands are there, we are never able to plan ourselves to ensure that we get the similar kind of earned revenue shares month on month, year on year from different sets of categories. In the way we have done it is we have focused around building very targeted customer base, very targeted marketing directions towards those customer base. And because the categories have been defined very specifically to those customers, we have been successfully able to define what kind of revenues are we able to generate over and above the rental revenues to earn our ERSs from specific categories for specific months. And that's why it became predictable for us. In the parking, I'm sure a lot of y'all have utilized it to a great extent of everything that I have shown y'all, but dead car parking bays that are not utilized during weekdays is a very good way of trying to talk to many of the car users, aggregating companies to utilize your dead space during your off hours so that you're able to generate good revenues. Storage spaces, not only for your own retailers, I'm sure our own retailers, y'all have accommodated quite a bit, but it is for even external players who like to use our catchment and want hyper-local last mile delivery opportunities to store. We become a very good asset class because we're very well located in any city or any catchment. So we become a very good asset class where they would like to participate to use storages. Because they are dead spaces for us, we are in a position to give it at a competitive and cheap prices, because they were against no revenues. So any additional revenues is good revenue. ATL, BTL, most of you know, so I won't take time. But a temporary kiosk was a very good one. As I said, that we've now started programming our year in a manner where we know the trends of what volume works, whether it's holiday season, education season, Diwali season, Christmas season, and so on and so forth, or EOSS season. And how do you start getting products for the temporary kiosk who want to sell during those periods only to capitalize the most, because they are the ones who will pay the highest premium. So that becomes the differentiator between the regular kiosks that you all do and the BTL activities that you all do. Back of the house retailers, they're very important, more than just revenue generators. I think every mall should have this kind of a mix, because this mix is important to cater to your customer base. But having said that, they do come and take the most unleasable spaces in our malls, which are all sub-ground, and they are very happy to be participating over there. And it adds to our kitty of bouquet of services that we offer our end customer. Terraces also, a lot of you have seen it. I'm not sure if anybody has tried the cloud kitchen route, but we have seen that as a good success. And I believe that that is something that can move, because it does work within the purview of the law, as well as it takes up dead space within the terrace space that is there. And lastly was the volume touch point or sponsorships. As I mentioned, it is for you to define which part of your mall generates any kind of volume, and it's for you to define that kind of volume can be sold to which category of people from the external world, not from our own retailer world. And we have seen a positive traction coming from those sets of brands who want to participate and showcase their product to those sets of volumes, which are being catered to a very specific set of targeted audience. And that has been a new learning and a new earning opportunity for us amongst the 7-8 categories that are there on the ancillary income side. Anjeev, that's from my side, just to summarize.
Najib, we have got a question. The gentleman has not mentioned his name. His question is, if a small business is trying to set up a kiosk, but they are not able to afford it, how are they supported?
So we, in our malls, do have a panel of vendors and panel of designers to help them go live, because small vendors and small retailers are not only becoming extremely important, but also an important part of the mix, because it creates different offerings. So we do have a panel of vendors who help them do it at a very cheap cost, from putting up a stall or a kiosk that is there for a temporary period. And we do have a set of designers who are able to roll out and give them design so that it's a very inexpensive route. More important than that is actually the manpower that they do not have to man, whether it's for a weekend, whether it's for 1 month, or whether it's for a long period. And because Property Zone manages its assets across the centers, we are now offering also manpower support to the people to man their own stores, where they are operationally driving their stores, as well as we are helping them in performance improvement of their store, because most of these players are D2C players or very localized regional city-based players that are there. That's how we are addressing it in our centers. And I think because it's in your mall and you are responsible for your asset, this extended service is important for them to survive. And it's important for the customer to see new retailers come like them.
Najib Akshay Singh, he's from Oberoi Malls. His question is, sir, with regards to SOH, the scope for career is high, or it still needs some more time to boost up this profile?
I believe that, Akshay, just to answer your question very simply, PPZ has started a new entity company last year called Spaces, only because we believe that the opportunity is phenomenally high. And I think if you are able to disconnect yourself from a particular asset, and if you see this current page that I'm showing you, it actually can be extended to 8 or 9, 10 different asset classes. And believe me when I say this, is that in offices, tech parks, and unlike retail centers where revenue generating is the main focus of things, ancillary income is not understood in the other asset classes, whereas the opportunity is quite a lot. And that's the gap that we are also trying to bridge, to identify and also show how new incomes can be generated. So to answer your question, I believe the opportunity is huge if you're creative enough to generate revenues in any of these asset classes that I've shown you.
Now, I have a question. Has social media been a good investment for marketing purpose so far?
It's been a mix because social media is a very good and important tool for visibility purpose, and it does not necessarily have a complete direct return on our investment towards shopping. But it's like an advertisement where we have to be socially involved. I think the way we have been successful, or we have liked using social media successfully, is by developing communities, and that's the point I made earlier, that we have stopped trying to market blindly and in the dark. We want to try and market very specifically to target audiences. And social media has helped us quite a lot to build these communities, to build a profile around these communities, so that that community started to be owned by us, so that we can do very targeted marketing activations around it by the retailers within our assets, as well as retailers who are not within our assets, in either ways to generate more revenues for the asset. And that has been our biggest learning of how do we like to use social media, rather than just being an advertising platform for visibility purpose and basic engagement purpose.
Well, anonymous attendee, he has his question is: do you feel a co-working space setup will work inside a mall revenue-wise?
It's a double-edged sword, because it may not necessarily get you the yield of what you want from a typical retail center. But we believe that a mixed-use asset of any kind is only a big beneficial than a retail center alone. Because the mixed-use asset, barring residential being part of the asset, unless it's a part of the township, that they generate energy in the asset, the entire asset all the time. Whether it is an office park, whether it's a tech park, whether it's a co-working, whether it's a co-living, or whether it's a hotel, they all generate ongoing energy in the asset. And as you all know, that for retail, high energy space usages are extremely important. And for us to cross-sell a lot of the products to all the other usages that are there become much easier in a way. So yes, the answer is that co-working should be part of and could be part of good developments. There are very good examples like the VR assets, where they have their own co-working format called the Hive, being part of all their assets, and it works very well. We have an asset called Vegas in Delhi, where we have got a co-working amongst the offices that are there, and it works very well for us as well. We have to be just mindful on the balance of what rental expectations are there, because they cannot pay as high as what retailers could pay. They are a more office-going community and office-going rental payers.
Sandeep from Pacific India is asking how to decide rental of kiosk, branding sites, and BTL.
That's a very good question, and we have debated it and we have deliberated this quite a bit ourselves. And honestly, Sandeep, there is no right or wrong answer, because the segment and the market is extremely fragmented and extremely unorganized. And the classic examples are hoardings on the road. As much as they are being parked over there for 20s and 30s of years, there is no method to the madness of how they charge the simple fact. We did an exercise some time back to try and generate a video camera in areas to show the amount of eyeballs that get hit, and the eyeball that hits that particular hoarding, just to show the importance of that particular hoarding, so that we could market it and price it correctly. We did not see a good result. We did not see a right result, because the eventual answers came on demand and supply. If I had a lot of demand for the number of units I have and no supply towards it, I was able to dictate a relatively higher price and grow that at a much faster pace year on year, or season by season as well in some cases. But the minute I did not have in the same asset, the minute I did not have inventory which did not have the good demand respectively, I have had to give it under barter, I've had to give it under low pricing, or I've had to give it as a group hoarding, inventory clubbing with people and brands, because there is no right answer to it. So I'm sorry, I'm not giving you your correct answer, but the reality is that there is no unorganized way of charging it. Yes, kiosk, if it is a product which is being selling a product specifically, we can define it against a projection of sale that they can generate. And similarly to the way we are generating incomes for our rentals for the stores, similarly, it could be given to the same method as well. From the projection of what we are doing a sale to the revenue share that they're able to share, we can define a rental. But if it's a BTL activity, or if it's a short-term temporary kiosk activity, my previous answer is what plays. It's a more demand and supply component of it, and how well you keep your inventory to manage it well is the key game in this entire bit of it, where you use your weak inventory clubbed with things and not as a singular inventory to sell. and so that your demand, your supply becomes shorter and looks lesser to while you're creating the demand amongst the brands that you're dealing. I hope I've helped you with that answer.
Now I have got a question. The question is, social media, I don't, this manager marketing from Nagpur has asked, I always believe that the car products disturb customers. Please guide on this. I don't know. I am not able to understand this.
It's a very important point, and it's a very valid point as well. And that's what I said in my conversation. It's a thin line between any kiosk or any ancillary income that you're generating relative to the kind of experience that you are wanting to give to your customer. And it's a fine balance between that. I have been part of assets where we have cluttered the asset to such an extent that we have milked every single corner of the asset. In a way, yes, the experience has been compromised in certain parts of the mall, but the revenues overseeded them quite a bit that we had to take a call to do that. And then there are some assets where we have been so decluttered because our experience and the design of the asset is so much of a priority that we have not taken the call. Now, and this is not applicable only to the car going products that are being sold. How we have done it in the car park is specifically is because the car park is a large floor plate and generally over multiple levels. We've actually broken the customer base or the brand base in different parts of those car parks. Wherever we believe, so there are different entry points, some are escalator points, some are elevator points, some are travelator entry points. And we have broken the people that are given in different aspects of it. Some are only within the car parking units where they are mobile rather than stationed, the brands that are selling. So we have spread it in a manner where the cluttering does not look as cluttered or get disturbed by the customer. That means one customer does not go through 6 products, but rather one customer goes to 2 products, even though there are 6 products being sold in the same car park. And that's the way we have decluttered it, but at the same time capitalized on the volume that is generated in our car parks.
What is the percentage of ancillary revenue to total NOI is good? A question from Anonymous of India.
As I mentioned right in the beginning, it can generate from 8%. And in one of our centers, in not one, couple of our centers, we've actually taken it up to 25 to 28%. Now, as I said, there's a thin line between how much you want to grow and how much you should grow relative to the experiences that you compromise in the bargain. And if you do that, a good number is a 15% to 18% should be the target that every marketing professional in their own assets should be targeted to get as extra revenues for the asset from ancillary incomes, as long as you are working around all the categories that are there. It is not possible through one category or 2 categories. It has to come across all the categories collectively. And hence the categories are increasing in the way we can generate so that the dependability on 1, 2 categories are less to kind of generate the kind of income that I'm saying.
Sandeep from Pacific India. This is the second question. He is writing, please explain difference between flea market kiosk, temporary kiosk, BTL in terms of tenure.
Simple. I mean, BTL predominantly are people and brands that are exhibiting their product. And that's for a very short period over a weekend, typically, whether it's a bike launch, whether it's a FMCG product launch, whether it's a clothing brand launch or a D2C product launch and a car launch, and depending on whichever launches can take place, because their objective is to try and target a high density volume between Friday, Saturday, Sunday and utilize it. The same period applies to a flea market, but the BTL activity can be done and typically should be done on every weekend. That is 52 weekends in a year, because you have got volume guaranteed during the weekends as a guaranteed number relative to any weekday that is there. Some weekends are bigger and some weekends are lesser, but you have a guaranteed traffic that comes over the weekend. So that BTL activity should be capitalized for every weekend that is there, so that you are planning in advance in who you're trying to sell what. The flea market, on the other hand, is an experiential format. It is not to sell or make money simply, like a launch product maybe. There you're trying to create good experiences for the customer, so that when the customer comes over and above the hundreds of stores that you have in your shopping center, they get an additional of 20, 30, 50 stores that the flea markets are able to bring, and all typical categories that are not typically sold in the shopping center stores. And all of us typically know that shopping customer likes the variety from a good trinket that they get for 50, 60, 80 bucks to a good gold chain that may be costing 50 or 5 or 8 lakhs that is there. And they like the whole, and the same customer base likes to shop from all the categories that are available. The flea market comes and bridges the gaps that you're not able to bridge in your store. And I think if you do more than 2 in a month, it is an overkill of experience, because you will just not end up doing more things over there in lieu of only earning monies through the flea market. And I believe that the same, because it does occupy a lot of space, so I believe that the same space should be used for multiple other things as well. As far as temporary kiosks are concerned, as I mentioned in my presentation, they are purely season based. They are categories who do not want to come for the whole year. They do not want to come only for 2 days because it doesn't serve their purpose. They want to sell the product. They want to come specifically for categories and time frames, periods which are relevant to them. Education, as I'd explained in the presentation. Education guys love to come during April, May, because all the admissions of schools, colleges happen from July to September. Travel oriented. They love to come during the summer vacation again, because summer vacation allows travel. So they come right before March end to April. Any product that is being sold for Diwali, from the local vendors who are selling diyas to sweet marts to new clothing and XYZ that is there, comes during Diwali. So that becomes a very season based, and similar to Christmas and similar to all other categories that may be relevant in the season based. Now, those temporary kiosks require a little bit of a longer tenure, more than the weekend or more than 2 weekends, which may be 1 month, 2 months, because they're genuinely trying to sell a product. They're actually converting a transaction over there, unlike a BTL activity who's only come for visibility purpose. And that's the big difference between the two. That number one, they come for a longer period because they want to transact. And number two, it allows you to program yourself in the whole year to say, these are the categories, periods that I want to try and get businesses. These are the categories that I want to get businesses from. So it allows you to target the very specific set of people that you're selling during those seasons. And because of that, they are the ones who are able to pay you a premium because they want to be present over there. And that's the 3 differences between the categories that you asked.
Priyanka from DB Mall. Her question is, holiday partners, credit card kiosks, these floating promoters are ancillary incomes, but malls are hampering the customer experience as customer is not interested, and how to overcome this?
It is a thin line, Priyanka, and as I mentioned to somebody earlier as well, that it's a balance that we have to define. And it is about where are you putting them, how cluttered are you putting them together, and where are you spreading it across. It is not that the customers do not like to talk to them. It's just that they do not want to talk and be thrown things at when they are coming for a leisure period. And it is about whether you have got 3 credit cards and all 3 credit cards sitting on your head is a no-no. But a 1 credit card being very specifically told in our brief to them that you need to target customers at this frequency, because we do not want our customers to be being hit continuously. And those rules have to be set besides from us. It does not mean that you do not do it. You just do it within a framework of rules that keeps the balance between what the customer experiences and what we are able to sell. Now, important is that typically everybody wants a main atrium. And I think the hard work that the teams have to put is trying to sell different parts of the asset, even if there are different price points, so that the clutter is decluttered across the center. Now, whether it's on the food court level, whether it's in the cinema exit level, whether it's, as I said, next to the toilets or closer to the escalators, on any floor, not necessarily on the ground floor, toilets and escalators, because those are all frequently used areas by the customers. And because of that, you can sell it as a high volume density space, but need not be on the ground floor. And by the way, they can get a little bit of a benefit to go to different floors, which kind of incentivizes them to look at different floors rather than only the ground floor. And that's a little bit of a hard work that every professional will have to do to ensure the balance that you all are all asking for. They're all very valid, and it's very good that everybody's thinking in that direction, because it is very important to keep that balance as well.
How to contact proactively for SOH sales in different categories?
Good question, but a difficult one as well. The categories have to be defined very, very specifically, and that has to be defined to a great extent on how many categories are you targeting for what kind of usages. We have done a very extensive exercise last year, and we realized that the number of categories that were very extensive. So we restricted ourselves to say that let's not try and target all categories. Let's break it down to limited sets of categories within the subcategory. So for example, if you're looking at any of these that are there within the volume touch points, and I'll just give you this example. Now, when it came down to any of these categories, and we wanted to look at brands that fall under these categories, we started defining, first of all, these categories to a limited number of categories. That means not every single event, but we said, let's do the first top 5 events that are there, the Diwali and the Christmas and the EOSS and whatever else it may be. Then we went into saying that, okay, fine, let's choose 5 different subcategories, which are like a Christmas, like a Children's Day or a Women's Day or whatever else day, which has got a very specific set of target audience that comes to us. And once we did that, we stopped ourselves and targeted all brands that actually hit these sets of people. And basis of that, we started contacting the agencies. None of them work directly. You have to work with the agencies. But we went to the agencies asking and defining which category people that we require and for what purpose, since they also saw merit in the direct correlation to the category, the brand and the targeted audience that we are targeting. They were willing to work with us. As long as they have the feeling that we are trying to sell things generically, they have a problem in taking a decision. But when they have a clear visibility that there are 800 students or 800 children coming for this event that we are doing, and there is a definite concentrated effort that we can get with them instead of trying to sell it to anybody and everybody, they definitely see merit in trying to sell that product to a brand that would like to capitalize on the category. So compartmentalizing these categories are important. Breaking it up to saying that let's target only 4 or 5 are important. You cannot try and hit everything every time, all the time. So that's the reason doing this in pieces is a better result-oriented direction.
Sushil from DB Mall is asking, is the storage facility at parking space a feasible and revenue generating option? What can be the average income it can bring?
We generate a lot because first of all, the storage demand that comes from our retailers itself is quite a lot, especially the F&B, footwear, electronics. Those are the guys who want furniture. They're the guys who want storage space and they want a storage space which has a quick turnaround so that they don't have to get it from the DCs and so on and so forth. So we do a lot of usages of storage from them. Number one, they are not obviously high rental yielding, but the way we look at it is instead of earning 0, you're earning something. And because you're earning something in large numbers, that means not 1 storage unit, but 10 storage units, that small amount collectively becomes a decently big amount. And that's why it becomes very feasible for us. The second storage, as I mentioned earlier, is defined from the outsiders that come to us. And effectively, they are the categories which are wanting to use storage for the hyper local usages only. And that is categories like, as I said, I'm not sure whether in Bhopal, all these usages of Dunzo, Zepto, Swiggy, Genie are all active, but their main focus is to create and get visibility of area next to their catchment where they can do a 10-minute and a 15-minute. Actually, we have seen them paying a bigger premium than our own retailers because they are more desperate to be in these hyper-local locations than our own retailers because retailers have their own store anyways. And we have seen it being only feasible and beneficial. But you have to do it in larger numbers and not just a singular aspects of it. 10 stores, 15 stores in different parts of the centers that you're able to create dead spaces.
How to increase sales of branding sites or how to connect with new agencies or consultant also? Suggest if there is any website.
No, there is no website. It is a relationship that you build. There are many players in the market who work with the agencies very closely. There are many players in the market who are also assisting in trying to reach out to brands and sub-agencies. But it's an exercise of practice. It's not something that you can pick up and call and just start interacting. It's an exercise of practice where you will have to go and meet various sets of brands, agencies, sub-agencies, and also middlemen, brokers who play this role in the country, in different parts of the city, in different regions, different players. But that's the only route that you will have to put the effort. There is no single website that you can reach out. Of course, the websites are, or rather the set of agencies are the typical mainline marketing agencies that create advertising space for any brand, but they're not restricted to the mall space. They are creating advertising space for them across all mediums of radio, TV, hoardings, XYZ, newspaper, everything. But the exercise is with them, and the relationship that you have to build and create opportunities for stories that they believe in is the most important exercise that you have to do with them on again and again, again and again, and again and again. It's not a simple answer. It's a ongoing exercise. We have been
Okay,
doing it since the last 15 years, so it helps us.
okay, now this is the last question I'm taking.
Yes.
How do you think the small experience has changed overall as per your experience? What has it inclined to, if any specific sector? Should
For
I
us,
repeat it? Yeah.
no, I'm fine. For us, the biggest change has been this page. And as I was showing, the old route and the new route, and the new route has made a massive difference in the way we have approached our shopping centers. And in the new route, for us, the center focus has been community development. And that simply means that everybody in the retail space, whether it is an online retailer, offline retailer, store retailer, or a mall owner, we are all trying to sell a product or sell something to the catchment that we are targeting. And what we thought is that instead of becoming one part of the larger clutter that everybody is trying to sell to, can we change and get the attention of the customer through a different route? And when we started doing interest-based community development, and I'll give you classic examples of community development, whether creating a marathon run, whether creating a cyclothon, whether you're creating a photography group, whether you're creating a pet show, whether you're creating a car enthusiast aspect of it. And you have to do activities, you have to do engagements around it, but not only around shopping. We've seen a much positive, a much consistent, and a much loyal customer to our assets relative to our competitors in the same space because of the community development activity that has happened. And now after COVID, I have to add that after COVID, this has become a larger focus of people wanting to get out of home other than shopping. Shopping has become a byproduct of everybody's experience. And online by default has no choice but to only discount shop to attract a customer to come. In the offline space, we have the opportunity and the advantage of touching our customers to create experiences that we keep speaking about, but create experiences through these community developments that they become a lot loyal to you relative to just being spoken because of transaction. Please change the conversation of only transaction with them to a little bit of an emotional connect with them. So where they connect with you for a much larger reason than coming to your place for shopping, because we strongly believe that shopping being a byproduct will your asset will become the first asset that they will think of coming, because you have touched them emotionally a lot more than others have. So that's the biggest change that we have seen in the trend of how shopping centers across the world have adapted, including brands have adapted for themselves.
With this, we end our today's workshop. I hope all my viewers must have learned a lot. And I thank you, Najib, for conducting such an informative workshop. With this,
my pleasure. My pleasure, Anjeev.
We,
thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. And
thank you to SCAI.
We end today's workshop. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you for attending, all participants.